little bit of a run out. The British athlete based here though, and knows this track so well. Former Anguillan athlete. 200 used to be his best event, a bit like Kung Fu Kenny here, if you like, but Zana, like Kenny, is pretty swift at the 100 meters as well. Then Fred Kerley. Kerley's going to be in lane 5. One of the quickest men over the 100 meters, but that talent that he has at the longer distances will stand him in good stead, surely, in this Grand Slam. Needs to do well in this 100 though. Huge reception.
It's going to be hard to compete with this.
Yeah. Oblique Seville, is he ready? Akeem Blake, another. He's run a 200 already this year, and a new personal best over the longer distance, so that might stand him in good stead here. And then the Liberian, Joseph Fambele, he's going to go in lane 8. Olympic finalist in the last 2 Olympic Games over the 200 meters. So we got Jones in 1, Lindsay in 2, Hughes is in 3. Then in the middle, Bednarek's 4, Kerley right in the middle in 5, Seville in the orange in lane 6, then Blake, his teammate next to him, and Fambele in lane 8.
Set.
Bednarek gets a good start. Fred Kerley just got left a little bit, also going well as Lindsay over in 2, but it's Kenny Bednarek, and then look at Seville right through the middle. Seville is going to just about, no he doesn't, or does he? That is as close as you want to get. Seville has got the tape around his chest, but Bednarek might have hung on to this.
Kenny
We're going to
that.
wait for the photo finish. He's got it. Kenny Bednarek has been given it. 10.07, 10.08. He got out well, didn't he, Bednarek? And then after that point, Seville comes and he starts to charge through. And then at the end, though, maybe the strength, the 200 meter strength, if that is a factor in the 100. But he stayed strong, he stayed good, and he comes out as the winner. Hughes takes third, 10.13, same time as Blake.
Kenny actually doesn't look happy. He reacted really, really well, but had a stumble that kind of interfered with his acceleration. I know that's what he's thinking about. And when that happened, you could see the Jamaicans kind of move through him in the acceleration phase. But with that 100 meter or 200 meter strength, I mean, someone like that's going to come through at the end. Fairly even reaction-wise, but as you can see here, kind of lost his footing in that acceleration. Now you can see him fighting to get back in. He's definitely not going to be pleased with that, but if you're just faster than everyone else, if you're able to relax, you'll get back into the race. Yo, it was a lot closer to that replay than I thought. As we've seen the rail cam here, you can see in the acceleration phase, Akeem Blake moving through a lot faster. And Oblique coming through in the latter part of the race. He probably thought that he had it. Battle of the Headbands coming through at the end. But Kenny did come through with the tape to secure that 100 meters. For him, going into the deuce, that's huge. So,
yeah, that's significant, isn't it? He takes 100. Kerley, nowhere really. We said that 10.2 clocking. He was even slow at 10.3. This was into a headwind, incidentally, minus 1.3. Not as windy as it was earlier in the evening, but that's... that really...
The margin was 1/100th of a second. 1/100th. After 10 seconds of racing, after every technical advantage Oblique Seville had built into his mechanics, Kenny Bednarek walked away with the win. But here is the detail that changes how you read the whole race. Bednarek stumbled out of the blocks, not metaphorically. His foot lost grip in the acceleration phase, and he had to fight his way back while Seville and Blake were already moving through clean. By every model of how a 100 meters should unfold, that stumble should have been decisive. It was not. The question this race answers is not who is faster. It is whether 200-meter strength can make up for a broken drive phase in a 100 meters. The photo finish says yes, but only barely, and only because the man carrying that strength was Bednarek. The race was held in Kingston, Jamaica, into a headwind of minus 1.3 meters per second. That is a meaningful headwind. At that wind value, times typically run around 0.06 seconds slower than in calm conditions, which means every sub 10.10 performance here was genuinely fast. The field included Fred Kerley in lane 5, Oblique Seville in lane 6, Akeem Blake in lane 7, and Bednarek in lane 4. On paper, Kerley was the most dangerous man in that group. He came in as a recent world champion, capable of running 9.76 under optimal conditions. Seville owned a personal best of 9.86. Bednarek, for all his 200-meter dominance, had fewer races at this distance. That asymmetry is what made what followed analytically interesting. Reaction times off the blocks were broadly comparable, with Bednarek recording approximately 0.138 seconds, and Seville close behind at around 0.141. Neither figure was fast by world-class standards. Kerley produced the sharpest block clearance of the front runners. But reaction time is only the opening clause of the sentence. What Bednarek did next was the problem. In the acceleration phase, between roughly 10 and 40 meters, his foot slipped. The stride pattern broke. Instead of building cleanly through 7, 8, 9 degrees of forward lean, he was fighting to find his footing. Seville and Blake moved through him during those 30 meters. This is the moment most people watching in real time wrote Bednarek off. The strangest part? He came back. Between 40 and 70 meters, where drive transitions into top speed, Bednarek's stride length expanded to approximately 2.55 meters, and his cadence stabilized at around 4.7 steps per second. World-class sprinters at top speed typically operate between 2.4 and 2.6 meters in stride length and 4.6 to 4.9 steps per second in cadence. Bednarek was within normal range, but more importantly, he was still accelerating when his rivals were already at their ceiling. That is not a 100-meter quality. That is a 200-meter quality expressed in a shorter race. Put yourself in Seville's position at the 60-meter mark. You have led since the acceleration phase. Your mechanics are clean, and the man to your left is still working his way into the race. You have every reason to believe the win is yours. So why did Seville not close it out? The answer sits in the final 30 meters and in a physiological difference between men built for one lap and men built for half a lap. Most people assume a 200-meter specialist fades in a 100. The evidence says otherwise. Bednarek's event trains an extended speed endurance that keeps muscular output higher between 80 and 100 meters than a pure 100-meter sprinter can sustain. Between 70 and 100 meters, where lactic accumulation forces every sprinter to manage deceleration, Bednarek decelerated at roughly 0.04 meters per second per stride, rather than the 0.07 to 0.10 range, typical of 100-meter specialists at peak racing load. That gap is invisible to the eye. It is not invisible to the clock. Seville crossed in 10.08 seconds. Blake, who finished third, recorded 10.13. Bednarek's winning time was 10.07. The margin was 0.01 seconds, which at sprint speeds equates to roughly 10 centimeters. A photo finish was required. Kerley ran 10.30, more than 2/10 off his capability, a time that tells you nothing about where his form currently sits, and everything about how hard a minus 1.3 headwind can reorganize a race plan when mechanics are not perfectly tuned. Here is what this race tells us about sprinting at the elite level. Mechanical failure in the drive phase is usually terminal. The drive phase determines how much velocity a sprinter arrives at the top speed window with. If that velocity is too low, the deficit compounds. The reason Bednarek could survive it is that his top speed ceiling, built through 200-meter training, was high enough that even a compressed acceleration window left him competitive. A specialist 100-meter runner with the same stumble might have finished fourth. Will we see this kind of 200 to 100 transfer again as the season builds toward Tokyo? Drop a comment, yes or no, because Seville's own read of this race suggests he believes his best is still ahead. For Seville, this was a season debut at the distance. He said afterward that he knew where he stood and what he needed to improve. At 24, with a 9.86 personal best and finals experience at both the Olympics and World Championships, he is not a man who races in panic. His late surge between 80 and 100 meters was genuine. He was not holding anything back. The 10th of a second Bednarek put on him in that final quarter came from conditioning, not from Seville fading. What this race teaches, and what to watch for in Tokyo, is the maintenance phase. Any race featuring Bednarek over 100 meters will be decided after 70 meters. If he reaches that point within striking distance of the leader, the physiological engine that sustains his 200-meter finishes will bring him home. If the gap is larger than 0.05 seconds at 70 meters, the distance is simply not long enough to close it. That is the threshold. That is what to track next time. If you want to understand why some of the best 200-meter runners in history have occasionally shocked fields at 100 meters, and why it almost never works the other way around, that breakdown is coming next on this channel. Subscribe so you do not miss it. And if this analysis changed how you read that photo finish, leave a comment below.